America is on the move. From the bustling streets of New York City to the tech hubs of San Francisco, people are packing up their lives and heading out. It's a phenomenon that's sweeping across the nation, and it's changing the landscape of America as we know it. Well, at least some of us are. For many, the decision to leave isn't easy. It's filled with bittersweet goodbyes and a sense of uncertainty about what lies ahead. But the promise of a new beginning is a powerful motivator. Millions are packing up and leaving big cities behind. The allure of urban life, with its endless opportunities and vibrant culture, is losing its shine for many. Instead, they're seeking the tranquility and space that smaller towns and rural areas offer. They're trading skyscrapers for cornfields. The vast open spaces, the slower pace of life, and the sense of community are drawing people away from the concrete jungles. It's a return to simpler times where the hustle and bustle of city life is replaced by the serenity of nature. They're swapping subways for, well, probably more driving. The daily commute might be longer, but the trade-off is worth it for many. The freedom to move around without the constraints of public transportation is a welcome change. This mass migration is being called the Great Relocation. It's a movement that's reshaping the demographic map of the country. Suburban neighborhoods are expanding and rural towns are experiencing a revival. But why are so many people fleeing the places they once called home? The reasons are as varied as the people making the move. For some, it's about finding a more affordable place to live. For others, it's about escaping the stress and chaos of city life. The answer, like most things, is complicated. It's a mix of economic anxieties, social unrest, and a global pandemic that upended, well, everything. The events of the past few years have forced many to reevaluate their priorities and make tough decisions about their future. It's a mix of economic anxieties, social unrest, and a global pandemic that upended, well, everything. The cost of living in major cities has skyrocketed, making it difficult for many to afford even the basics. The pandemic has also highlighted the vulnerabilities of urban living with crowded spaces and limited access to nature. Remember when we all thought sourdough bread was the biggest change coming? Those early days of the pandemic, when we were all trying to find comfort in baking and home-cooked meals, seem like a distant memory now. The reality of the situation has set in, and it's much more complex than we initially thought. Turns out it was just the tip of the iceberg. The changes we're experiencing go much deeper than a temporary shift in our daily routines. They're affecting every aspect of our lives, from where we live to how we work and interact with each other. This isn't just about people wanting a change of scenery. It's about a fundamental shift in our way of life. The rise of remote work has given people the flexibility to live anywhere, breaking the traditional ties to urban centers. Families are spending more time together and communities are becoming more tight-knit. This is about a fundamental shift in how we live, work, and relate to each other. The lines between work and home life are blurring, and people are finding new ways to balance their responsibilities and personal lives. Community engagement is on the rise as people seek to build connections in their new environments, and it's raising some big questions about the future of our cities, our economy, and our country. What will happen to the urban centers that are being left behind? How will the economy adapt to these changes? And what does this mean for the future of our society as a whole? Buckle up, folks. Things are about to get interesting. The Great American Exodus is just beginning, and its impact will be felt for years to come. As we navigate this new landscape, one thing is certain. The way we live and work will never be the same again. City life has always had its downsides. Expensive rent? Check. Crowds everywhere? Check. The hustle and bustle that once seemed exciting can quickly become overwhelming. The constant noise, the never-ending traffic, and the sheer number of people can make even the simplest tasks feel like a chore. Questionable smells on the subway? Check, check, check. The daily commute can be a nightmare with packed trains and buses, delays, and the occasional unpleasant encounter. It's enough to make anyone dream of a quieter, more peaceful life. But in recent years, these annoyances have morphed into full-blown anxieties. The fast-paced lifestyle, once a symbol of ambition and success, now feels like a relentless grind. The pressure to keep up, to always be on the go, can take a toll on mental health. The cost of living in many cities has spiraled out of control. Rent prices have skyrocketed, making it difficult for even well-paid professionals to afford a decent place to live. The dream of owning a home in the city has become increasingly out of reach for many. Finding an apartment the size of a shoebox now requires a small fortune and winning the lottery. Then came the pandemic. The global crisis brought these issues into sharp focus, highlighting the vulnerabilities of urban living. Suddenly, those cramped apartments felt even smaller. Remember lockdowns? Being confined to a tiny space for weeks on end was a wake-up call for many. The lack of space, the inability to go outside, and the constant proximity to neighbors became unbearable. Yeah, not so fun when you're living on top of your neighbor. The thin walls that once provided a semblance of privacy now felt like barriers to freedom. The constant noise from next door, the lack of personal space, and the feeling of being trapped added to the stress. Add in viral spikes, economic uncertainty, and a general sense of unease, and it's no wonder people started looking for an escape hatch. The pandemic made it clear that city life, with its density and dependence on public spaces, was not as resilient as once thought. For many, that escape hatch led straight out of the city. The idea of a simpler, quieter life became more appealing. The prospect of more space, a slower pace, and a closer connection to nature started to outweigh the benefits of urban living. Smaller towns and suburbs started to look awfully appealing. The promise of a bigger home, a yard for the kids to play in, and a community where everyone knows each other became a powerful draw. More space, lower costs, and maybe even a yard? Sign us up. The suburban dream, once seen as a step back, now seemed like a step forward. The chance to own a home, to have a garden, and to live in a quieter, safer environment was too good to pass up. But this mass exodus is creating a whole new set of challenges, both for the people leaving and the places they leave behind. Cities are facing a loss of population and revenue, while small towns and suburbs are grappling with an influx of new residents. The shift is reshaping communities, economies, and the way we think about where we live. Take New York City, the city that never sleeps until it does. The bustling metropolis, known for its vibrant energy and relentless pace, has found itself in an unprecedented quiet. The streets that were once filled with the sounds of honking taxis, chattering pedestrians, and the hum of life are now eerily silent. The Big Apple, once a symbol of American ambition and excitement, has become a prime example of this urban exodus. Times Square, the heart of the city, where neon lights and billboards once dazzled millions, now stands as a stark reminder of the city's changing landscape. The pandemic has not only altered the physical appearance of the city, but also its very soul. Hundreds of thousands of residents have fled the city since the pandemic began. Moving trucks have become a common sight, lining the streets as people pack up their lives and head for new beginnings. The reasons for this mass departure are as varied as the people themselves, but a common thread runs through their stories. That's a lot of bagels left uneaten. Iconic New York establishments, from bagel shops to delis, are feeling the impact. These places, once bustling with regulars and tourists alike, now face empty seats and dwindling sales. The cultural fabric of the city is fraying as its residents seek greener pastures. Why are New Yorkers leaving in droves? Well, imagine paying an exorbitant amount of rent for a tiny apartment where you can hear your neighbor's every move. The high cost of living, coupled with the stress of cramped spaces, has pushed many to their breaking point. The allure of the city fades when the reality of daily life becomes a constant struggle. Now imagine doing that while navigating a global pandemic, economic turmoil, and the constant fear of getting shoved onto the subway tracks. The pandemic has exacerbated existing issues, making the city's challenges even more daunting. The fear of illness, the uncertainty of the job market, and the strain on mental health have all contributed to the exodus. Suddenly, a quiet life in the suburbs doesn't sound so bad, does it? The appeal of spacious homes, private yards, and a slower pace of life has never been stronger. For many, the suburbs offer a refuge from the chaos and a chance to reconnect with a simpler way of living. New York isn't alone. Cities across the country are experiencing similar trends. From the tech hubs of San Francisco to the bustling streets of Chicago and the vibrant neighborhoods of Seattle, urban centers are witnessing a shift. The pandemic has prompted a nationwide reevaluation of what it means to live in a city. From San Francisco to Chicago to Seattle, people are reevaluating their relationship with urban life. The desire for more space, affordability, and a better quality of life is driving this migration. The once unthinkable idea of leaving the city has become a reality for many. And for many, the answer is a one-way ticket out. As families pack up and drive away from the city skylines, they carry with them hopes for a brighter, more sustainable future. The urban exodus is reshaping the American landscape, one moving truck at a time. Here's where things get really weird. While people are fleeing cities in droves, the housing market is booming. Wait, what? It's like everyone decided to play musical chairs, but with houses instead of chairs. And there aren't enough houses to go around. See, the pandemic didn't just make people want to leave cities, it also made it harder to build new homes. Supply chain issues, labor shortages, and rising material costs created a perfect storm for a housing shortage. So even as demand in cities cooled, prices in the suburbs and beyond went through the roof. This created a bizarre paradox. People were desperate to escape expensive cities, but they were getting priced out of the very places they wanted to go. It's like trying to escape a sinking ship only to find out the lifeboats are all reserved for millionaires. Let's not forget the pandemic's other little gifts, job losses, and economic uncertainty. Remember those? Yeah, they played a big role in this whole relocation saga too. When the world shut down, so did millions of jobs. Suddenly, people who once relied on bustling city centers for work found themselves unemployed and questioning their expensive lifestyles. For some, the pandemic forced a difficult choice: stay in the city and struggle to make ends meet, or pack up and start over somewhere more affordable. Many chose the latter, and who can blame them? When your livelihood is on the line, sometimes you have to make drastic changes. The pandemic may be fading into the rearview mirror, hopefully, but its impact on the job market and the cost of living continues to fuel the Great Relocation. It's a stark reminder that even in the land of opportunity, sometimes the deck is stacked against you.